real quick, quality of life, because that's like a phrase that people use all the time. I think that that's sort of embedded into what you're saying. There's an argument of, the quality of life isn't going to be good. You don't want the person to suffer. That's what you said. I don't agree with that at all. The idea that we don't want people to suffer, that's just a really modern idea. And also the idea that the medical industry isn't supposed to mitigate suffering full on, right? Because if that were the case, we'd have to kill everybody because everybody suffers. So that's not the job of the medical industry. Two, suffering, I have not heard a legitimate argument for why it's inherently bad. Suffering from a biblical perspective is good. Jesus' entire life was full of suffering, and the job of suffering is to strengthen and to make you into a better person John Calvin suffered medically his entire life, and he had horrible medical problems, and he wrote some of the greatest theology in human history. So why is there an assumption in our culture that suffering is bad and that the medical job is to get rid of it?
You realize you're asking a pain management physician this question?
I know. Sorry.
Okay. No, I certainly, I'm not saying that suffering can't have redeeming value. It can, but honestly, we all need to try to love one another in a way that helps decrease their suffering, physical, mental, spiritual, as much as we can. That's an honorable and noble goal.
Do you think that's true?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's true.
I think if you're hungry, I'm going to feed you.
That might be, yeah, if you should give me food. But for instance, biblically, in the New Testament, when the apostles go out to spread the gospel, and that's our call, to go out to spread the gospel, Jesus literally tells them, you're going to be killed for this. So if you take that logic too far, then all the pragmatic Christians in America would, don't go out and spread the gospel. If you're going to be killed for it, we got to stop that.
Pain avoidance is not the same thing as mitigating suffering, though. I mean, you have to go out and you have to honor your commitments. You have to honor God, whether that costs you your life. People who are missionaries on the foreign field, they understand they're going into that battlefield and they accept that risk.
Do you think people
when
are
your
making
child
those distinctions?
skins his knee, you're going to wash it up, give him kisses, and put a Band-Aid on it. I mean, it's all right to do that. And so,
right, but I'm not going to wrap him in bubble wrap for the rest of his life like modern parents do. But I'm not trying to be too contrarian in this, but I think the idea that we need to mitigate suffering, I just don't see that. Like, I don't see that. I know you're a pain. I didn't even think about that when I asked the question.
But use good judgment.
Yeah, and I think that's not happening at all. I think that the obsession in the American imaginary is to mitigate suffering in every way, shape, and form. And I think that the medical industry has basically just manipulated people into being obsessed with, like, you got people who were during COVID wearing big bubbles around them. Like, it's crazy. Like, I don't even know how to articulate how crazy it is. And that all the preceding philosophy that builds to that is suffering is bad and pain is bad. And from the Christian perspective, that was never, ever the case. That's why we came to America. That's why we came in the Mayflower. And when we landed in Plymouth, half those people died, but they knew that what they were dying for and what they were building and the pain and the suffering that they were actively, willingly enduring could potentially, they didn't know what it would become, could potentially create something greater and better. And I talk to people all the time from all over the country, people my age, people older, people, nobody thinks that way anymore. And I think that the medical industry is like the industry that has basically propagandized everybody into believing that suffering and pain is bad and wrong and evil, full stop. And I know you're not saying that, but I think we need a more robust conversation around, like you mentioned, the lady said that she cares for her son or daughter, I can't remember, but at her house, and that, it's not the most difficult thing ever, but that person obviously is suffering. But there's something that's good that's coming out of that. She's serving him. She's playing the role of Christ in his life and serving him and doing that for a long period of time. Like, that's a good thing. And the medical industry, like you've mentioned throughout this, their response to that is, we'll just kill him and then we'll help everybody else. I'm saying that in air quotes. So sorry for the rant, but
let me take this in kind of an interesting direction that I think will help people. So as far as when someone is very ill, right? Mm-hmm. bioethics has kind of divided the philosophy of how we care for that person into ordinary means and extraordinary means. Okay, so when someone is ill, ordinary means would be things like food, air, and water. We don't put a pillow over their face. We don't dehydrate them to death. We don't starve them to death. Like we were talking about the case of Terry Schiavo earlier, a young woman with a persistent vegetative state. Her husband got a court order to remove her feeding tube and let her slowly starve and dehydrate to death. That would be considered wrong. Extraordinary means would be things like ventilators, ECMO, this type of thing. Those are considered to be morally optional. Okay. And I run into a lot of people who suffer a lot of unnecessary guilt. Grandma was at the end of life on a ventilator, and the decision was made to withdraw the ventilator and allow grandma to go into an eternity, right? That is morally okay. I mean, none of us are getting out of here alive. And
you're making the argument that
yes,
I don't think that's morally okay at all. You do not need to continue extraordinary means. Where are you getting that from? Where's that? Like, that's not a biblical concept at all.
Take grandma or grandpa in your arms, hold them, pray over them, sing to them, allow them to go to the Lord. Let the underlying disease process is what takes their life, right? That's what takes their life in the end.
I just don't see, I understand the logic. I don't see the ethical declaration. Like, I don't think that that's as clear cut as what you're saying. The idea that makes me like, okay, so that's something that I've thought about, because obviously I have old people in my family. And at some point these questions will start to come up, and I don't see any ethical, biblical, theological reasoning for, if you have the means necessary to keep a person alive, why you wouldn't do that.
Well, again, people on the end of life, on a ventilator, if they want to go home to be with the Lord, I think it is morally, ethically all right to withdraw extraordinary means and allow the underlying disease process to usher them into eternity.
Do you think that that's not suicide?
No, that's not
Why?
suicide. That's accepting the inevitable. Accepting the inevitable.
If I committed suicide tomorrow, I could accept the inevitable that I'm going to die anyways.
Taking an active measure is not the same as removing extraordinary levels of support.